Armor 3.0. Ever since the release of the Armor 3.0 system rework, we've seen increased variety in how players make their builds and leverage stats. However, there were always a couple of things that felt missing from the full picture. It's about time we fit those missing pieces in with Monument of Triumph. Armor archetypes. Our general goals for armor archetypes are as follows. Armor archetypes should help you understand and communicate your build crafting options with stats. Each of the 6 stats should be equally represented. Armor archetypes should support as many builds as possible. There should be as few armor archetypes as possible. Adding too many bloats the amount of armor you may want to keep in your vault and the size of the random roll pool, on top of making it harder to learn, understand, and communicate the stats for a build. No single armor archetype should dominate the build crafting space across the game. We expect that the nature of stats means that some archetypes will be more popular in specific types of activities. This is more about not making a best armor type for all non-crucible activities or vice versa. We think that the original 6 archetypes have fulfilled these goals admirably. However, certain builds require significantly more tools to get the stats they need. Since this doesn't usually limit the power of a build and instead primarily limits builds variety, we plan on addressing this by adding 6 new armor archetypes. Click on each for a sample armor. Okay, what do we got here? Siegebreaker. Armor configured for guardians that prefer to play the role of a battering ram. Ooh, now that is interesting, isn't it? Skirmisher. Armor configured for guardians that thrive in chaos. Primary stat melee, secondary stat weapons. Interesting. Demolitionist. Armor configured for guardians that believe all good plans should include a well-placed explosive. Colossus. This is for supers. Armor archetype. Armor configured for guardians who charge straight through enemy fortifications. Primary stat super, secondary stat health. Very interesting how they're doing this. Reaver. Armor configured for guardians that will hit you with every trick in the book. Oh, okay. Jack of all trades. Sort of one. Powerhouse. Armor configured for guardians that take the word impossible as a challenge. Ah, primary stat weapons, secondary stat super. So probably very good for doing solo, high difficult raid stuff like that. High difficult endgame content. Our goal is that despite existing options for those that want them, looking at you, Powerhouse, your current builds won't be so outclassed that you feel like you must replace the roles you already have to be effective. But if you want to experiment with new builds or further fine-tune your stats, there are more options to build the distribution you want. Before we move on, we wanted to tackle a few questions we're expecting from our build crafters out there. Will the new archetypes be available on all armor? Almost any new Armor 3.0 drop from anywhere in the game can drop with the new archetypes. The only exceptions are the exotic class items, which will keep their existing stat roll behavior. What about the missing stat combinations? Aren't there 30 possible archetypes? As mentioned above, we want to avoid bloating the pool, making a clear best choice for all of the Crucible or all PvE, and we want to keep each stat equally represented. We believe this is the right number and combination of archetypes to introduce to fit those goals, especially when combined with armor mods and subclass bonuses, not counting mirrors. There will be only 3 armor stat pairs that are not available. Is it going to be harder to grind armor now? No. With a combination of 6 new archetypes and the sheer number of armor set bonuses available, it made sense to give the armor mods on your ghost a boost. Each one will now improve the odds of your chosen archetype dropping in 1 to 1 and 2, previously 1 and 3. In combination with a larger number of ways to get the stat combinations you want, we believe this will make it significantly easier to get the stats you need for your build. Now let's talk exotic armor stats. Exotic armor stats. When we originally released Armor 3.0, we had longer term plans to give exotic armor a way to access higher tier behavior. Originally, we planned to give them a deterministic route for upgrading. However, we've ultimately realized that it was healthier for the game to take the most straightforward approach. Moving forward, All exotic armor will have tier 5 stats and will have access to all tuning mods. This applies retroactively to all Armor 3.0 exotics other than collections rolls. So if you don't want to trade your armor out for one of the new archetypes, you won't have to acquire them again. Armor set bonuses. As they've settled into the sandbox, we've seen Guardians leverage armor set bonuses in a lot of different ways. Overall, we're happy with how they fit into their role as a more flexible element of build crafting across the game. There's a couple things we felt like we should address. First, there's a 2 set bonus perks that were big enough outliers that they needed balance adjustment. Ride Together, Died Together decreased the maximum damage resistance, granted from 50% to 40%. While the rapid decay nature of this damage resistance means that it can provide a high bonus without being a problem, the easy availability of Orbs of Power combined with stacking with other damage resistance sources makes this set more valuable when mixed and matched than we'd like. We believe this adjustment hits a sweet spot where it is still potent but not a must pick for all content. Superluminal Motion increased the health granted while moving from 15 to 30 health per second outside of the Crucible. The Power of the Wayward Psyche set bonus fell short of our goals for what a raid armor set bonus should feel like, especially Epic Desert Perpetual, so we've doubled its effective healing. Perk behavior is unchanged in PvP. The second issue is simultaneously more straightforward and harder to solve. The current available list set bonuses, while often fun to buildcraft with, can sometimes feel like they provide very few options. Many builds, even for Guardians seeking something outside the standard setups, end up not having enough options to pick from, instead defaulting to a small number of 2-piece set bonus combinations. The solution is simple. As we've previously noted, we're refreshing a massive amount of gear across the game. That includes more set bonuses than we've previously made compressed into a single release. We don't expect these to fully replace the existing options, which will still be available to earn, but you can look forward to a wide array of options, from elemental effects, ability synergies, and survivability to explosions, movement, and echoes of armor mods past. There's something for everyone. To whet your appetite, in addition to some sets we've already announced, let's preview a pair of destination armor sets. Exodus Down, the Nessus set. The 2-piece perk, Emergency Electromagnet. When your shields become broken, collect all nearby Orbs of Power and ammo bricks. 4-piece perk, Repurposed Charge. Whenever you gain, lose, or spend an armor charge, heal and gain damage reduction for a short time. This effect scales with the amount of armor charge gained, lost, or spent. Veritas, Throne World armor set. Lucent Transmutation. Performing a finisher on a combatant or landing successive powered melee final blows generates an elemental pickup based on your light subclass. Lucent Tithes. Performing a finisher on powerful combatants heals you and generates loyal Void Moths. Before we move on, we have seen one question coming up since our Monument of Triumph reveal that we'd like to address. Will the Armor 3.0 versions of Raid Armor still have access to raid mods? No. Raid mods are a feature exclusive to Armor 2.0 due to technical limitations. However, since we know certain raid mods can sometimes be more valuable than a set bonus in specific situations, Armor 2.0 for all available raids will be focusable at Hawthorne for 10 Spoils of Conquest each. That's fair. We hope that new set bonuses tied to each raid activity provide meaningful benefits that give you a fun choice in picking between combinations of Armor 2.0 and Armor 3.0. Exotic Armor Balance Preview. Alongside the above ability and armor changes, we took some time to update a handful of exotics from each class, spanning multiple years of Destiny 2 releases. Some have straightforward changes that lean into the fantasy, while others are being reworked. Let's dive in. Hunter Exotics. Wormhusk Crown. At one point, Wormhusk Crown was a genuine scourge upon PvP, but within the modern sandbox, it has fallen by the wayside, especially in PvE, where it has always struggled. So we are giving it a facelift with some build crafting hooks. This also comes with an update to Spirit of the Wormhusk to match these changes. Reworked effect. Solar multi-kills grant burning souls. While active, solar ability damage is increased and dodging greatly cures the player and nearby allies. Nearby allies too, interesting. Shards of Galanor. We looked at all classes' capabilities when it came to super damage output with exotics. Since Hunter has fewer options than the other classes, we figured it was worth adding another. It's no Celestial Knife Hawk, but we figure embedding large solar bombs in your foes is a close second. Landing 5 out of 7 knives in a volley during super causes a delayed solar explosion and releases solar shrapnel. This can happen with each volley of super knives. Landing both explosions is approximately comparable to Curious Thunder Crash. Wow, that is powerful. Caliban's Hand. Caliban's has proved a strong option for the prismatic class item, but has largely fallen behind on the base exotic. To help, we are leaning further into what it does best, letting you chain proximity knives with ignitions. Increase the melee recharge bonus by 25%. Dealing damage with Scorch now refunds a small amount of melee energy. Ignition final blows fully refund knife energy and can overflow into an additional charge. Very nice. Frosties. Frosties have been begging for a buff for some time, and what better way to do it than finally looping it into stasis build crafting. To Night's Forecast, a freeze is coming. Gain stacks of frost armor while sprinting. When you have frost armor, stasis weapons deal increased damage. Shinobu's Vow. Shinobu's Vow has not seen much PvE play over the years. With the introduction of Bolt Charge to the game, and its popularity in other builds, this particular exotic seemed a good candidate for opening up some new gameplay for hunters. The changes we've made here are similar to those made recently to Lucky Raspberry, hooking in its existing loop to more recent gameplay items, plus a bit of extra support play. Now gains Skip Grenade energy whenever you gain stacks of Bolt Charge. Skip Grenade damage now grants Bolt Charge. When you gain full Bolt Charge, heal yourself and nearby allies, and enable an enhanced Skip Grenade. Enhanced Skip Grenades bounce 2 additional times before detonating, releasing bonus Skip Seekers per bounce. Updates to Skip Grenades, that's nice. Raiden Flux. Roaming supers have long felt a bit rough to use in champion heavy content. These changes to Raiden Flux allows you to use it as a potent anti-overload option and reward opting into the combo finisher. Arc Staff hits now jolt targets. Combo finisher Palm Blast now gets 1.5 times the base exotic's damage bonus and reports as critical damage. Mothkeeper's Wraps. Interesting. In order to encourage more diverse build crafting with Mothkeepers, we opted to turn it into a conditional grenade override, similar to Gunpowder Gamble. This allows the use of your base grenade in addition to moth grenades, without lowering the downtime of moth grenades compared to current high uptime builds in the live game, which also means increased uptime if you weren't invested into grenade generation. Mothkeeper's Wraps are now provides moth grenades as a conditional override instead of a complete override. Getting kills from any source increments a counter. The amount added to the counter per kill depends on the rank of the enemy killed. Once the counter reaches 6, you gain 2 moth grenade charges until they are used. All current functionality and synergies with moth grenades remain the same. For example, arc moths still blind. Having your grenade stat over 100 still increases their damage. They still synergize with subclass fragments, etc. Increased the movement speed of arc moths by roughly 43% and void moths by roughly 25%. Both moths from the same grenade will now attempt to target separate enemies' allies if possible. Lucky Pants. Oh, Lucky Pants, you've always been pretty good, but with so many powerful hand cannons, it's become hard to justify the incredible magnitude of the damage bonus versus bosses. We are making some targeted adjustments to hand cannons that we had considered outliers, as well as pushing Lucky Pants into a more non-bossing combat role for it to live on sustainability in perpetuity. This is a fancy way of saying we don't want to live in a Lucky Pants meta forever. increased Ariana's Vows maximum damage bonus to 4.5, decreased Uncivil Discourse's maximum damage bonus to 2.5, reduced Lucky Pants bonus damage versus bosses by 33%. Titan exotics. Hollowfire Heart. Hollowfire has been a very simple exotic for a long time, offering clear-cut benefits. However, its effects are largely vestigial of Destiny 2's first year. To bring it into the modern sandbox, it now leans deep into I am a mobile sunspot, offering the effects of a Soul Invictus sunspot and then some while roaming and defeating enemies with your abilities. Reworked effect. While your solar super is charged, ability final blows cure you and give stacks of Sunfire Furnace. While Sunfire Furnace is active, grenade and shield burst final blows trigger an ignition. Each stack increases grenade regeneration, class ability regeneration, and super damage. Upon exiting your super, all stacks are converted into super energy. Decreased ability regen bonus from 3.5 times to 2.5 times. Pyrogale Gauntlets. As part of re-examining super damage exotics, we wanted to bring up Pyrogale Gauntlets. However, it is already quite a competitive option with Roaring Flames. Because of this, we have instead improved its ability to find its mark as well as its damage ever so slightly to reduce the necessity for Roaring Flames times 3. Slightly increased Super Cyclone Scorch per tick, increased Super Cyclone Explosion damage by 10%, increased Super Cyclone tracking by approximately 40%. It should be remarkably easier to get the projectiles to track to a target at range. Stoicism. Spirit of Star Eater. In comparing super damage, we believe that it's safe in the modern super damage climate to increase Spirit of Star Eater's benefit for Twilight Arsenal back to its former values. Increased Spirit of Star Eater benefit for Twilight Arsenal from 25% to 50%. Severance Enclosure. We figured it was high time to give back Severance Enclosure some of its potency, while also helping it bind into the few kinetic aligned keywords we use. Improved occlusion on the detonation, making it easier to hit with. Removed effect that prevents combatants from being hit by multiple shockwaves in a short period of time. Enemies hit by the shockwave are disoriented for a short time. Praxic Vestments. The Praxic Vestments has a cool fantasy, but its tuning at Renegade's launch prevented it from being the exciting new option that we wanted it to be. In this release, we've given it a significant tune-up by improving its value, uptime, and usability. Increased melee attack damage by 500%. Big slam. Wow, okay. Increased jetpack fuel gained per weapon kill in PvE from 10% to 20%. Increased jetpack fuel gained per powered melee kill from 35% to 50%. Updated the exotic perk to recognize knockout kills as powered melee kills. Improved the jetpack flight experience. Decreased the wind-up time for maximum flight duration from 0.8 to 0.5 seconds. Removed the behavior that caused jetpack flight to end early when contact is detected with the floor or wall. Fixed a bug that caused the jetpack kick to target dead enemies, ending flight early. Updated camera to better convey your speed. Wow, that's interesting. That's a crazy buff for that thing. I've never seen anybody use the jetpack, so that's interesting. No backup plans. Long have players asked to have no backup plans to work on non-void to go with the exotic's visuals shifting to match. We are happy to say that it now does. It operates a bit differently than it used to, but it still leans into aggressive close range play built around your defensive buffs. Additionally, we've opened up the triggers to melees as well as shotguns to allow cleanup punches to also keep the engine going. Now triggers and benefits off of both shotgun and melee final blows. Shotgun or melee final blows now start health regeneration instead of granting an avoid overshield. Shotgun or melee final blows extend the timer of any active defensive buffs on you. This includes void overshield, restoration, amplified, frost armor, and woven mail. Will partially heal void overshield upon activation of this extension if the player has one. The shotgun damage bonus is now active when you have any of the above noted defensive debuffs, as well as also buffing melee damage. Now that is impressive. Now I really want to play a Titan. Cadmus Ridge Lance Cap. Lance Cap has struggled to find a niche since its release. We've made some adjustments to it that open up its trigger conditions a bit and add more value to leaning into other stasis build elements. Now also can spawn stasis lances with rapid stasis weapon damage and final blows even when not behind the rally barricade. Now grants bonus stasis lance damage based on your current stacks of frost armor. Point Contact Cannon Brace. Point Contact has routinely been at its best when you are just tap firing Thunderclap instead of charging it, which neglects the awesome fantasy of the ability. So we are making a couple changes targeted at making the user experience of charging Thunderclap with Point Contact better, which of course means more lightning. Activating a Thunderclap also releases lightning strikes as you start winding up the punch. Lightning strike damage now scales further based on how long Thunderclap is charged up for, up to 2 times. This stacks with the bonus damage from casting while amplified. Reworked melee regen from lightning strike kills to compensate for the new wave of bolts on charge up. No longer target tiered. Flatten amount has been increased to compensate, should see larger returns on average. Helm of Saint 14. The current output of Helm of Saint 14's Disorient in PvE is completely overshadowed by Weapons of Light, and alongside the rework to Word of Dawn, we also found that the Disorient posed concerns in PvP. We took the opportunity to give this exotic a complete facelift that integrates it with the Word of Dawn changes, provides a more appropriate replacement to the Disorient, and bolsters the fantasy of being Saint 14 inspired by his infinite bubbles from old story missions. Unchanged. Weapons of Light continues to persist for the wearer and for allies upon leaving your Word of Dawn. Added new VFX to Word of Dawn to indicate if it will provide Weapons of Light upon leaving. Removed. No longer disorients enemies within your Word of Dawn or upon blocking with Sentinel Shield. New functionality. While Weapons of Light is active, kills or sustained damage from any source grant stacks of the Saint. Under the same circumstance, void and kinetic damage sources will also suppress in a radius around the victim. Picking up your Ward of Dawn consumes all accrued stacks of the Saint and then extends your ward's duration based on how many stacks were consumed. Helm of Saint 14's synergy with a specific exotic weapon has also been adjusted. The weapon they're speaking of is the glaive that shoots little mini bubbles, so I'm excited to see what happens with that. ACDO Feedback Fence. Feedback Fence has been a recurring point of feedback in the Crucible. Even when not charged up, this should help. No longer provides any melee damage resist versus players. Blast Wave Striders. With many changes coming to the base Stasis kit, we looked back on how our dedicated Stasis exotics were performing and saw a spot to help improve the performance, consistency, and potency of Blast Wave Striders all in one fell swoop. This should help shift it from a highly situational tool to an on-demand stasis explosion for aggressive behemoth playstyles. Adjusted the projectile to mirror that of the Renegade's Behemoth Walker's stasis detonation. Decreased defeats to charge meter. Increased tracking strength of stasis shrapnel on detonation. Should more effectively track frozen targets. Replaced sliding with on-shiver strike hits as an activator. Fixed an issue where multiple kills on the same frame wouldn't increment the perk buildup. Warlock exotics. That's what we like to see. Nezarec Sin. For a lot of players, Nezarec Sin has been a solid workhorse exotic when all else fails to suffice. We didn't want to modify this use case, but we did see an opportunity to tie it into the new Voidwalker aspect. Tie the way to the final god of pain. It's your turn to devour your enemy's fear. Who knows, maybe he's still listening. New effect. Target damaged by Soul Siphon are suppressed. Defeating suppressed targets or with Soul Siphon grants an additional 1.5 seconds to Abyssal Extractors. That's gonna be pretty crazy. Matiodoxia. In our super damage exotic audit, we found a couple issues in how Matiodoxia was dealing its bonus damage, which was leading to lower values than expected. Increased suspending burst damage from Super Combine by 22%. This makes it equal to a Curus Thunder Crash. Have at it. Wow, so they're giving a Curus Thunder Crash pretty much to all 3 classes. That's wonderful. That is so wonderful. Skull of Dire Ahamkara. This Ahamkara Bone Helm is a classic exotic, but that's no reason to let it ossify. Returning energy on super final blows is so 2017. Last year, Voidwalker got a second melee charge and a second grenade charge with Chaos Accelerant. Why not a second cast of a Nova Bomb? Better yet, how about we bring back Nova Bomb Lance? Why stop there? Maybe you could detonate your Cataclysm Nova Bomb with Nova Lance for massive boss damage if you time it right, but you're special and you can time it right every time, can't you? Oh, player mine. Haha. Oh, buddy. New effect. After casting a Nova Bomb, you get a short period during which you can cast a Nova Bomb Lance. Destroying a Cataclysm Nova Bomb with a Nova Lance creates a Nova Vortex alongside the Cataclysm Nova Bomb Seekers. Wow, that is insane. Unchanged, super energy on Nova Bomb final blows and weapon final blows while you have Devour. The additional damage resistance while casting Nova Bomb has been removed from the perk text but remains as hidden functionality to help the new play pattern sing. Crown of Tempests. Crown of Tempests is an exotic that is decently powerful, but rather demanding to maintain and unexciting to use compared to other options in today's sandbox. Plus, Crown of Tempests on Stormcaller, Warlock, deserves a bit more thunder, don't you think? Increased the duration of conduction times in PvE from 7 to 10 seconds. New effect, while you have at least one stack of conduction tines, Ionic Sentry creates a storm grenade when it is deployed. Mantle of Battle Harmony. Battle Harmony has been left a bit in the dust over the years. The changes here allow it to function even when fighting bosses, as well as give it a nice bonus for actually choosing to use your super, instead of holding on to it for the damage bonus. Now can trigger its super energy gain or weapon damage bonuses on sustained weapon damage in addition to final blows. After casting your super, now gains surges for all elements and weapons matching your super's damage type. Cause detonations when hitting targets for a moderate duration. Astrocyte Verse. Because of the natural limitations of Blink and the small area of effect of the volatile burst that this exotic grants, it has struggled to see much use. To address these issues, we've added a new air move ability which should help add some flexibility to link both in and out of combat, and expanded its ability to apply volatile. New effects. While both this helmet and Blink are equipped, you can now use your air move input to perform a dark blink horizontally in any direction. This ability has a longer cooldown in Crucible. Blinking or dark blinking now grants volatile rounds, in addition to the volatile explosion. Oh buddy, we're gonna be using Blink a lot. Oh buddy, oh buddy. That sounds so good. Oh my goodness. Dawn Chorus. Dawn Chorus's various benefits didn't quite come together into a strong build, which limited its viability. To address this, we've expanded its Scorch benefits to also affect ignitions, which should synergize well with Incinerator Snap and further improve its interaction with Daybreak. Now causes your Scorch to build to an even more intense ignition. Now grants melee energy for dealing ignition damage in addition to Scorch damage. Removed the internal cooldown on energy gains from Scorch damage and retuned gains to return slightly more energy overall. Now causes Daybreak projectiles to always immediately trigger an ignition. Nothing Manacles. Scatter Grenades and Nothing Manacles got a bit too much love in Renegades, so we're tuning them back a bit. Extra Seekers can no longer chain off themselves, just the initial grenade. Reduced Extra Seekers generated from 4 to 3. Reduced range and lifetime of Extra Seekers. Fair enough. Controverse Hold. While it was nice seeing handheld Supernova back in the spotlight again, the value for the effort of using it with Controverse was a bit too free. Reduced energy returns when used with Magnetic Grenade handheld Supernova by 15%. This is in addition to fixing the health chunking bug. Daimos Suffusion. Daimos Suffusion has been a recurring point of feedback in Crucible, allowing far too easy kills while being completely safe. This should help in reducing that. Increase the time between damage ticks against players from 0.1 to 0.3 seconds. And that's all from us for now. Thank you for your continued support and feedback over the years. We hope you enjoy playing in this new sandbox as much as we have internally. And we're excited to get all of this in your hands on June 9th. Beautiful. Very exciting stuff. Some very exciting stuff in here. Absolutely wonderful. I can't wait to play. I can't wait.